and YouTube currently. Thank you for joining me tonight. It is another watch along. Tonight we are going to see Joe Bob Briggs on The Last Drive-In talking about the movie Halloween 4, 1988. It is a part of our Halloween specials here. And this is The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob, Season 5, 2019, Halloween Hootenanny. Let me switch over to our live feed here on Twitch so everybody on Twitch can see what's going on. There you go. Get the camera all set up for you here as well. If I can find a decent angle, that doesn't look too bad. Okay, so the last time we streamed, it was Halloween 1, the original by John Carpenter. Tonight, Joe Bob Briggs is going to talk about the movie Halloween 4 from 1988. And the reason I love Halloween 4 as well as Halloween 5 is because it is starring Danielle Harris, who has become a pretty reoccurring character in the Halloween movie universe. I think Danielle Harris did great in these movies, Halloween 4 and 5 specifically. So thank you for joining me tonight. It is October 7th, 2024. This is, again, The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob, the Halloween Hootenanny, part of the Halloween specials here on The Last Drive-In. And Joe Bob is going to be talking about and reviewing the movie Halloween 4.
I'm Joe Bob Briggs. Welcome to our second movie, Halloween 3, the greatest Halloween movie ever made. Wait, I need to drink this beer to handle the awesomeness of Halloween 3.
Now, unfortunately, Joe Bob isn't doing Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Like I said, this is Halloween 4, starring Danielle Harris. And it apparently takes place 10 years after the original Halloween movie. Take a sip of my drink here. We have some Monster Energy, Aussie Lemonade. Drink of choice tonight, of course, Monster Energy. So there you have it. And one thing I do want to say before we get started is I remember talking about in the last stream, I believe I said Quentin Tarantino was approached to direct and write the script for a Halloween movie. It was not Halloween 4. It was Halloween 6. So it was after Halloween 4 and 5. Right around the 90s, I believe, he would have been asked to direct a Halloween movie. But of course, he turned it down. As the history books show, Quentin Tarantino has never directed a Halloween movie before. But it would have been Halloween 6, which technically speaking is Halloween H2O. But of course, he decided not to do that. So this is Halloween 4 for our Halloween special of the Halloween Hootenanny with Joe Bob Briggs.
You know, I disappear for 5 minutes and this whole place goes to hell.
We are also not allowed to show the film due to YouTube copyright restrictions. So unfortunately, I can't show you guys the film like on a true watch-along, how I would want to do the watch-along specifically. We will have to cut through the segments where they are playing the movie, and we will listen to the segments where Joe Bob is talking about the movie. So hopefully still entertaining for all you guys watching, and just hope that you're having a nice spooky season so far. Yesterday I was watching some football games. The Jets lost in London, the Bills lost in Houston, and the Steelers lost to my all-time rivals, the bitch-ass Dallas Cowboys. So hopefully we can have a better Monday night here and enjoy some Last Drive-In with Joe Bob. The Halloween Hootenanny, the Halloween specials, Joe Bob talking about the movie Halloween 4 from 1988.
What is this? What is that? What is that thing? I mean, the name of the show is Halloween Hootenanny, all right? Not Dime Store Candy Corn Jubilee.
You said to get Day of the Dead stuff. By the way, do you know that Day of the Dead actually has nothing to do with Halloween?
Yes, it's pre-Halloween.
Actually, it's post-Halloween.
I just thought we could be different this year.
I know, but not doing Halloween on Halloween.
Okay, do you have a cosplay for Halloween 4? Because that's what we're doing. We're doing Halloween 4.
As a matter of fact, I do.
Okay, why don't you go prepare it, and I will take it from here. If you want to get in touch with us, all you aspiring Michael Myerses, send your emails, your tweets, your posts, whatever, to Darcy the Mail Girl, and we will read it between segments. You know, we did get a few phone calls. I have to admit, we got a few phone calls saying that we shouldn't be taking Day of the Dead lightly. It's the season when Mexico gets reunited with all the dead relatives, and it's not that depressing. It's like a wake in New Orleans or something, because it's like a funeral party. But it's not a children's birthday party, okay? That's not, get rid of this stuff and bring me some skulls. This holiday is all about skulls, not cartoon skulls, skulls. Okay, anyway, we're going to show Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers, emphasis on the word return because they were trying to make up for the disastrous Halloween 3, which everyone hated because it had no Michael Myers in it. Now,
doesn't make it a bad movie.
Now, this movie came out 10 years after the first movie and 7 years after the sequel to the first movie, and I'll explain the whole backstory as we go along. But all you have to know right now is that, first of all, at the end of part 2, Michael Myers and Dr. Loomis both burn up in a fire. They destroy each other. And then part 3 has nothing to do with part 1 or part 2, and so this movie doesn't have to explain anything in part 3, but it does have to explain how Michael Myers is alive and what happened to Laurie Strode. And the answer to that, then these are not spoilers because you learn all this in the first 5 minutes. Laurie Strode died in a car accident caused by Jamie Lee Curtis's agent not being able to come to terms with Halloween producer Mustafa Akkad. But Laurie had a daughter who is now 7 years old and living in a foster family in Haddonfield. The second thing is Michael Myers did not die in the fire. He's been in a coma for 10 years. But apparently they have great physical therapy at the hospital where he's in a coma because he turns out to be in really good physical condition, as you will see as our story unfolds. This is a good movie. I like this movie. Of all the sequels and remakes, this may be my third favorite movie after 1 and 2. And one thing that makes it terrifying is that Michael Myers is not just trying to kill teenagers anymore. He's trying to kill a 7-year-old girl. That's really stepping up the stakes, don't you think? I mean, you're really not supposed to do that according to the rules of the day. You don't put children in peril. Teenagers were not considered children, but they don't even do that now. Well, Lifetime Network does do that now. Lifetime will threaten the lives of young children, even babies, but nobody else does it. Sometimes people ask me, where are all the great exploitation movies today, Joe Bob? The great low-budget horror films. They're on the Lifetime Network. I love the Lifetime Network. Back in my acting days, I always wanted to be cast as the boyfriend, husband, charming stranger from out of town in a Lifetime movie of the week, because who wouldn't want that job? You get a great wardrobe in the early scenes. Then when the heroine finds out your nasty secret, you get to choose scenery, orchestrate a kidnapping, blackmail most of the cast, and use cruel weapons until you plunge to your death, burn up in a fiery wreck, get repeatedly stabbed as you rise again and again to terrorize the woman that you love, or suffer 77 bullet wounds from the nice savior replacement boyfriend that nobody remembers. Unfortunately, I never got that chance. I never got to go full bore Ted Bundy because the Lifetime Network changed all the rules. After years of making movies with titles like Alone with a Stranger, Heart of a Stranger, Intimate Stranger, Stranger at the Door, Stranger in My Bed, Stranger in Town, The Familiar Stranger, The Stranger Beside Me, The Stranger I Married, Total Stranger, Double Check. I think those are all actual Lifetime movies. They abruptly stopped making movies about the smooth-talking serial killer, and all the good male roles were replaced by psycho bitches. Lifetime psycho bitch movies are some of the best low-budget horror films of the past 30 years. But a woman who steals your baby, or better yet, one of those women who tries to carve the baby out of your body when you're 8.5 months pregnant. Well, see, that falls a little short in the terror department simply because everybody in the audience already knows that mom must be reunited with her infant at the 157 mark of the 2-hour movie. Because leaving a baby in peril or showing the death of a child is one of the last real taboos of television. I mean, even a baby stricken with a rare disease must be miraculously cured by either science or God prior to the credit roll. Of course, not all psycho bitches are trying to steal babies. Some are simply trying to kill the heroine in order to steal her husband. But those would be the older Lifetime psycho bitches. You know, those are inspired by Fatal Attraction, as opposed to the younger ones that are inspired by The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Am I watching too much Lifetime? Did I notice that? In both cases, though, the psycho bitch is attempting to create a family that exists only in her bipolar mind. But the younger ones have an advantage because they show up, you know, I'm the perfect nanny, I'm the perfect helpful neighbor, I'm the perfect babysitter. Or if it's set in Beverly Hills, I'm the perfect wedding designer, you know. But the middle-aged psycho bitches, they have to be quirky or funny or brilliant, like the psycho bitch psychoanalysts, you know, so that they will be welcomed into the target family without any real need for any actual service. So, of course, you can't really feel sorry for the imperiled suburban woman with a psycho bitch bearing down on her because her women's intuition told her that this chick was bad news in the third scene. You know, she thought it was a little weird that the woman carries a pistol in her purse, but the woman said, oh, it's nothing, I'm from Kentucky. So she just ignored her instincts. And so the message here, I think, is emotionally smart, intellectually stupid. You know, their intuitive powers are telling them danger, danger, and their minds are telling them be polite. You know, so the refusal to acknowledge reality in the third scene is what leads to having 3 butcher knife wounds in the final scene. And in fact, I'm already talking about this, right? Let's analyze what the Lifetime Network is trying to tell us about women, okay? There was a time back in the 90s, I guess, when the main danger to women was men, especially young men attached to out-of-control daughters. So you had movies like Mother, May I Sleep with Danger. That's one of the iconic stories of the decade. Tori Spelling, ripped away from her family by a psycho boyfriend. Kirsten Dunst, she disrupts her family in 15 and Pregnant because her boyfriend knocks her up and then disappears. And of course, the all-time classic, Not Without My Daughter. It purports to be a story about a brave woman fighting to bring her child home from Iran, but at root, it's really a story about a heartless husband and a father who destroys a family and attempts to rob the mom of her daughter by criminal actions, aided and abetted by a society and a culture that is demeaning to women. So men can't be trusted. They're all abusive. They all have secrets. They're ungrateful. They're users. But apparently, that was not enough jeopardy for the Lifetime woman. So enter the women who murder cheerleaders. That was the next step. You know, the best one was that one on HBO called The Positively True Adventures of the Alleged Texas Cheerleading Mom. But that became fodder for a whole series of Lifetime plots featuring conniving, jealous murderers in the guise of welcome wagon housewives. You know, Lifetime even did a straight ripoff of that HBO movie called Death of a Cheerleader, but it was more about mean girls than mean moms. So all these stories are about women who are not that crazy, but they're so eaten up with jealousy that they'll do anything to improve their standing in the community, including the violent elimination of any woman with a better public image. But here's the interesting thing to me about this particular subgenre. The evil woman must always be prettier and more popular than the good woman. You would think it would be the opposite, that the homely underachiever would be full of pent-up rage. But these killers are basically black widows. They're just using their dark powers on women instead of men. Sometimes the jealous outsider is an ex-girlfriend of the boyfriend or the husband. Sometimes she's a stalker. Sometimes she's a boss or a mentor. But her single-minded determination to eliminate the innocent protagonist must result in a cat fight, preferably one with deadly weapons. Wait a minute, excuse me. Girl fight. We don't say cat fight anymore. Girl fight. And then the evil woman must go to jail in the final scene. I'm not sure why the evil woman goes to jail while the evil man has to die. But that's the format. Okay, so it also helps the evil intentions of the jealous outsider psycho bitch if the woman at the heart of the story has a problem child. So the child can be a cokehead, quote, mixed up with the wrong crowd, porn addicted. That's in the classic cyber seduction, his secret life. The internet is always a font of evil influence over every child in a Lifetime movie. The point is that the psycho bitch can use these weakened, flawed offspring against the mom by giving them drugs, sympathizing with their wrong-headed grievances, stripping for them, telling them it's okay to turn tricks in high school. Remember co-ed call girl? Remember that one? Seducing them or otherwise creating I understand you so much better than your mom scenarios. It's an updated version of the old stranger with candy fear that every parent harbors. If the mom accidentally discovers that her son or daughter is being manipulated, she will be smeared as a bad parent and forced to fight allegations of abuse or neglect. Now, the only way Lifetime redeems these plots is to blame the mom for cutting off her access to the sisterhood. She got so busy with other things in her life, controlling boyfriend, demanding career, an addiction to gin, that she loses access to her mom, her sisters, her female friends, and Oprah. She has no good information. So the patriarchy controls access to all advice. She fails to recognize the psycho bitch who enters her life because by cutting herself off from female society, she is becoming a psycho bitch. And I really think things were better, though, when we males were causing all our problems, really. I mean, you should have hired me, people, because I could have shown you how it's better to burn me up than to burn yourself up, sweetie. Baby, man, strong 21st century woman who would never fall victim to jealousy or revenge or baby stealing. Okay, I got to get out of this. How many people did I piss off just now? All right. Okay, here we go. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, is the story of what happens when a half-crazy psychiatrist and a fully crazy serial killer both recover from being burned to death and clash once again in the quaint Midwestern town of Haddonfield, Illinois, which is still not filmed in Illinois. Seems like they can never quite get enough money to actually go to Illinois. So this time it's Salt Lake City. Actually, Midvale, Utah, just outside Salt Lake, where Dr. Loomis finds out that some Rhodes Scholar doctor at the Federal Nut House checked out Michael Myers for a transfer to a state hospital, and pretty soon we got cops swarming around an ambulance upside down in a creek with something that looks like ravioli inside where 3 people used to be. The only problem is, who the heck is left for Michael Myers to kill? Well, Jamie Lee Curtis is left. But this was during her indoor bull stuff period when she said she was no longer doing horror flicks. So that leaves Jamie Lee's 7-year-old daughter, last survivor in the whole dang family, and her name is Jamie. Her name in the movie is Jamie. No kidding. So Michael hauls it over to Haddonfield, and the John Carpenter creepy crawly synthesizer theme starts up, and pretty soon he spooks all the rednecks with deer rifles at the local bar and station, and he spends most of the movie terrorizing a little girl in a clown costume and her older foster sister who has to babysit her instead of aardvarking with her jerk boyfriend who ends up aardvarking with Kathleen Kinmont instead. Did you follow that? Well, Michael is acquiring some fresh weapons. Sure, we've seen it before. Actually, we've seen it twice before. But have we seen it with a 3-minute scene of a grizzled, whiskey-guzzling, traveling preacher telling Dr. Loomis what his mission in life is? I think not. Let's take a look at those drive-in totals. We have 18 dead bodies, 1 dead dog, 2 breasts, 1 excellent motor vehicle chase, exploding gas station, exploding power station, pickup and shotgun vigilante brigade, thumb through the forehead, iron rod through the chest, shotgun through the midriff, socket wrench foo, fire extinguisher foo, ready kilowatt foo, straight jacket foo, Drive-In Academy Award nominations 4. Donald Pleasance as Dr. Loomis, whose face now looks like something the dog coughed up, for saying, we're talking about evil on 2 legs, and you're talking about him as if he were a human being. Carmen Philby as a weird-beard pickup driving, whiskey-drinking evangelist who's only in 1 scene. Kathleen Kinmont as the sheriff's daughter who steals boys from the nice girls. Gene Ross as Earl the bartender for forming a shotgun-toting lynch mob and opening fire on anything that moves in the bushes, including a fellow redneck named Ted Hollister. George Sullivan as Deputy Logan for saying, "Isn't all this a little paranoid?" You never say that in a horror movie, by the way. Bo Starr as Sheriff Meeker for saying, "I got a town full of beer bellies running around in the dark with shotguns." Danielle Harris as the 7-year-old for crying on cue. Ellie Cornell as Rachel Carruthers, the nice girl babysitting foster sister, for running through the house screaming, "Leave us alone," at Michael Myers. That's going to work. "Leave us alone, Michael." And George Wilbur as Michael Myers for taking care of business on both the roof of a house and the roof of a speeding pickup. 4 stars. Joe Bob says, check it out.
4 stars.
You know what our problem is? We don't have enough Mexicans working here. That's our problem. All we need is 2 Mexicans. And chances are one of them is going to be into this Day of the Dead stuff. And he would know from childhood how the Los Muertos are supposed to be positioned in the Day of the Dead display. I don't think they have cartoon mariachi bands on Day of the Dead, okay? And if they do, they don't look like these guys, all right? They wear the charros, with the braid on the sleeves. Sometimes I wear them, but we should all be wearing charros, You put on your charro, you put a bunch of silver chains on the saddle of your horse, and your pants are really tight. The pants squeeze your balls, but mariachi guys are used to that. That's how they get that vibrato in their sad songs. But Pedro Armendariz, remember him? Mexican actor, made all those movies with Dolores Del Rio. Pedro, he could rock the charro, I'm telling you. Study your Mexican history, man. Yuki, do they teach Mexican history in Japan? No. Well, they should. We have no charro here. Have I made myself claro about the charro?
October 30th, 1988. And like I said, unfortunately, YouTube will not allow us to play the actual movie. So we do have to skip ahead throughout the film. Maybe one day, chat. Maybe one day we will actually be allowed to show this film in all its glory. Because I really do love Halloween 4. I love Halloween 4 and 5. I think they're underrated, underappreciated in the Halloween series of films. But they are great movies. Unfortunately, though, YouTube will not allow us to show any of the actual film for the watch-along. So we are going to skip ahead to where we can hear Joe Bob talking about the movie, which is always fun and entertaining in itself. Hopefully you guys think so too. But maybe, just maybe one day, we will be allowed to actually do the watch-alongs the way I intend on doing them. But for now, we're just going to listen to Joe Bob talk about the movies.
4 set pieces that established the whole backstory of Michael Myers and Loomis. And they had to do that. They had to make it clear to the audience that after Halloween 3, which was universally hated by the public, they were back in Haddonfield, back in the minds of Loomis and Michael. Donald Pleasance is here. They couldn't get Jamie Lee Curtis, but they did get Ellie Cornell as the foster sister. She does a good job with that role, although the audience didn't take to her right away. But those opening images of the desolate farm buildings and the scarecrows and the rusty tractors and the endless fields, those images are from Utah in the spring, but very believable as Southern Illinois in the autumn. And then the mental hospital, those scenes were filmed at a Supermax prison. You have a sense of menace, even without the talkative narration by the caretaker guy, the guy who says, Jesus has nothing to do with this place. And then the escape scene where Michael puts his thumb through the guy's face, that's enough to establish that, yes, he has superhuman strength, and it also establishes that he's been triggered by the news that Laurie Strode had a daughter. And then the scene where the ambulance is overturned in a creek bed, and Loomis is so angry that he doesn't trust anything he doesn't see with his own eyes, so he just wades right out into the water so he can witness the carnage. Donald Pleasance now has half his face mangled. He's walking with a limp. He's using a cane. We're into some Richard III stuff here, you know. We're assured that Loomis is even more crazy and even more determined and even more guilt-ridden over his inability to stop Michael. And then that great series of scenes at the combination gas station diner where Michael has killed everybody so he can steal the tow truck. And once again, you know, performed a seemingly impossible physical feat. You know how hard it is to ram any object through a grown man's chest or stomach or any other part of his body, much less a thick steel rod. You need a titanium javelin to do something like that. And of course, I also forgot the nightmare Michael Myers scene with the 7-year-old Jamie, in which Michael Myers can appear anywhere in front of you, behind you, which is kind of what he does. I love that moment in the diner where Loomis and Michael lock eyes and Loomis drops his cane. He doesn't need it anymore. Maybe Loomis and Michael are two sides of the same person, both indestructible. Dwight Little claims that he tried to do this movie thinking of Michael Myers as just a human being, an escaped mental patient. But almost every time we see him, he does something supernatural. So I'll talk about that later. You know what I'd like to know, though? What made Michael Myers go crazy in the first place? The very first scene in the very first movie is Michael committing his first murder when he kills his sister. So we never know why he did that. When they turn that camera around and they reveal young Michael with the bloody knife in his hand, he doesn't look particularly demonic. Looks just like an ordinary kid. So Darcy, tell people online we want theories about why Michael Myers is crazy. Maybe somebody's figured that out. And meanwhile, those Michael Myers lookalikes keep coming in. I like this guy, Justin Owens from Garrett, Kentucky. What's with the Miller Lite, you know? Michael is a beeraholic, you know? And then there's this one. This one is an implied threat. James McKnight from Chicago. He's got my book on his lap. It's Michael focused on Joe Bob memorabilia. We know what it means when Michael picks up the photos of Jamie Lee Curtis, right?
You took that at your show.
What?
That picture was taken at the Music Box Theater.
Oh, really? Well, that's even more creepy because I remember that guy now. He stayed in Michael Myers' character the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, enough Michael Myers cosplay. We should put up a page on the website or something, you know, incorporate it into kinkyhorror.com. I wanted to talk just for a minute about Mustafa Akkad. Everybody talks about John Carpenter and Deborah Hill as the original producer-directors of Halloween, but Mustafa Akkad was the original money man, and then he later acquired 100% of the rights to the franchise because John Carpenter and Deborah Hill sold their interests. And he was the one who did Halloween 3, and then he was the one who decided Halloween 3 was a mistake, and so he commissioned Halloween 4. Now, Mustafa Akkad was a very interesting guy, Syrian Muslim, who was a director himself. He made some very heavy-duty Islamic films in the 70s. He made The Message, which was basically a religious film starring Anthony Quinn. It's the life of Muhammad. Very difficult to do a movie about Muhammad because you're not allowed to actually show any image of Muhammad. That's blasphemy in Islam. And then he also made Lion of the Desert, which is about Mussolini's attempt to take over North Africa and restore the Roman Empire. Rod Steiger does a mean Mussolini in that movie, by the way. But he's defeated by fierce Bedouin fighters led by Anthony Quinn. That movie was paid for by the Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi, $35 million, but it did not do that well at the box office. And actually, his whole life, Mustafa Akkad was trying to make movies that would explain Islam to the West. And he was very idealistic about that. He thought he could use movies to restore peace between Christians, Jews, and Muslims, East and West. He thought the whole thing was a big misunderstanding. And unfortunately, he died in 2005. It's very sad. He and his daughter were both killed by a terrorist bomb that was set off in the lobby of the Grand Hyatt Hotel in Amman, Jordan. But he's a highly respected filmmaker in the Middle East. They have a school named after him and a street named after him in Aleppo, where he's from. And also a street in downtown Beirut is named after him. Anyway, Mustafa Akkad was extremely protective of the character of Michael Myers. He believed Michael Myers was the linchpin to the Halloween franchise, and he always wanted to know if the mask was changed or the wardrobe was changed, or he had a thing about Michael Myers' hair. He didn't interfere in anything else. He left Dwight Little alone to make his own movie. And of course, he was trusting Little to do what was considered the impossible at the time, put life back into the franchise that had been ruined when they made Halloween 3. And Dwight Little delivered. Dwight Little gave an interesting direction to George Wilbur, the stuntman who plays Michael in the movie. He told him, I know you're wearing a mask, but I want you to always be thinking. Never stop thinking, no matter what physical action you're doing. And I believe that even though we can't see it on your face, we'll see that on your body. And it's very true. And you know who would agree with that? Sonny Chiba would agree with that, the great action star from Japan. Sonny Chiba ran a martial arts acting school in Tokyo, and one of their principles was that actors use their faces too much. It's the body that sells the emotion. So Sonny is retired. He left LA and he went back to Yokohama. But that school in Tokyo still exists. It's called Japan Action Enterprise. So Dwight Little, though, he's a Cleveland guy, went to the USC Film School, won a bunch of awards there. Actually, the reason Dwight Little and Mustafa Akkad got along so well was they were both USC Film School alumni. Mustafa Akkad had gone to USC Film School in the early 50s, and his mentor was Sam Peckinpah. So Halloween 4 was Dwight Little's second movie. He'd made a feature called KGB: The Secret War, starring Sally Kellerman. I don't know anybody who has seen that movie. And I've asked, I said, have you ever seen Dwight Little's first movie? And I thought Halloween 4 was his first movie. No, he made this other one. But anyway, he went on to make Phantom of the Opera with Robert Englund. He made a big Steven Seagal movie called Marked for Death. And then, like many directors who start out with a hit horror film, he ends up making TV, many series like Bones, From Dusk Till Dawn, Sleepy Hollow, Drop Dead Diva, Nikita, The Practice. Last movie he made was Free Willy 2. But that was 25 years ago. All right, back to the movie. Talking too much. How can there even be a Free Willy 2? You already freed Willie, right? See, that shows you what a great sequel director Dwight Little is. He figured that out. You know, he was at a meeting where they said, how can we put Willie back in the evil theme park where they want to kill him so that the kid can re-free Willie? And Dwight Little said, well, we don't have to do that. We'll have a giant oil spill that's threatening Willie's life and the lives of all his orca friends. But the evil oil men don't care. Right? So isn't that what happens? I think that's what happens at Free Willy 2. I mean, wasn't there a real Willie the Whale, you know, in real life? And they freed him and he got chewed up by an outboard motor or something. I think that happened. Am I remembering that right? You know, remember at the end of Free Willy, the kid on the hill, he's waving to Willie as he swims away. And Willie's out there doing these jumps and leaps and everything, waving back to the kid on the hill. And then they don't show the part where Willie gets run over by a cruise ship.
Oh, my 90s generation. We definitely remember the Free Willy movies. There's like fucking 5, 6 Free Willy movies. I remember them always making like a Free Willy movie. That's how you know you're from the 90s. We had shit like Free Willy. These new kids don't know a fucking thing about Free Willy. What do they got now? Like Paw Patrol and shit? Before Paw Patrol, we were worried about Free Willy. We were focused on the whale crisis. All right? And before we get started here again with the watch along and Joe Bob's movie review, I do just want to add, okay, In every Halloween movie now, they try to make Michael Myers more human. They try to play him off like he's this human, psychopathic being. At the end of the day, Michael Myers in Halloween movies are always going to have some element of the supernatural. I've explained it before. Okay? It is just common practice in horror movies. No matter what fucking Halloween movie you're watching, whether it's John Carpenter's, whether it's Rob Zombie's, whether it's Danny McBride's, every fucking version to Michael Myers is supernatural. Okay? He is not a human. He is not like me and you. He's not supposed to be like me and you. That is the entire goal of the movie, okay, is to make him supernatural. And that is also why my theory, when Michael Myers wears the mask that is made by Silver Shamrock, that's my theory. The mask that Michael Myers wears is made by Silver Shamrock. It makes him superhuman and supernatural.
And so we have the scarred hand of Michael Myers fingering the production stills from Halloween 1, verifying that Jamie is indeed the daughter of Laurie Strode. Kind of cool the way they put those scars on the hands to make it clear that he did not escape that fire unscathed. I'm not sure how I feel about that Michael Myers mask in the costume store mixed in with the other Halloween masks. It seems like an inside joke that kind of breaks the mood. On the other hand, I can justify it because everybody remembers that night from 10 years ago. So Michael Myers is a real presence in that town.
But let's also not forget, now Joe Bob makes a joke here about them selling the Michael Myers mask at a common novelty kind of Halloween shop. But if you remember in John Carpenter's Halloween 2, there was literally a guy dressed up as Michael Myers. The police thought it was Michael Myers. People on the street thought it was Michael Myers. And what ended up happening to that guy? He got fucking hit and ran by a speeding vehicle. They fucking obliterated. And then not only did he get fucking ran over by the speeding vehicle, that shit exploded into smithereens. And that was just a common bystander. That was just an innocent civilian. And he was walking around like Michael Myers on Halloween night, so everybody thought it was Michael Myers, and he got the worst of it. So, to me, like I said, it's not uncommon to kind of see those little kind of subtle nuances in these Halloween movies. Joe Bob mentions here that they're selling a Michael Myers mask at a Halloween shop, which seems a little strange, but like I said, to me, my theory is that the mask that Michael Myers wears is made by Silver Shamrock. So it has to be a mask that you can just go out and purchase. Obviously, the real mask is William Shatner's face painted white with some alterations on it. But I'm talking about in the Halloween universe, how the mask actually ended up in Michael Myers' possession.
And the kids would talk about him and maybe want to be him at Halloween, although it'd be kind of too real, like dressing up like Ted Bundy in Ted Bundy's hometown. At any rate, one of my favorite scenes ever is when Loomis is hitchhiking because his car got exploded at the diner, and he gets picked up by the eccentric old preacher. Now, that's Carmen Philby. In the 70s, 80s, 90s, if you needed a drunken bum or a mangy drifter or any kind of eccentric old coot, your first choice was always Buck Flower. Buck Flower did that hundreds of times. But if Buck wasn't available, because Buck didn't travel that far from L.A., you would hire Carmen Philby. Carmen Philby did almost as many of those roles as Buck Flower, even though he started acting at an advanced age. He didn't even move to L.A. until 1969 when he was 46 years old. Before that, he was a comic. So very beloved in Hollywood, though, everybody's best friend. And I love what he does here. You're a hunting it, ain't you? Instantly knows he has a kindred spirit when Loomis climbs into his truck. Talks about Armageddon, created by Satan himself, the biggest evil in the world. And then, you can't kill damnation, mister. It don't die like a man dies. Because what this scene is, it's a crazy interview where Loomis encounters himself. Loomis sees himself for the first time, and it's not a pretty picture. Loomis is an outcast now. The hospital doesn't care about his opinion. The police treat him like a crazy eccentric. He can't walk. His face is scarred. He's been stripped of everything. Passing motorists flee from him in fear. Teenagers bully him, treat him like a homeless person they can kick around and abuse. And then he sees why. He's become this old man in a beat-up pickup chasing some idea of evil that nobody else understands. When he takes that whiskey and guzzles it, it's like he's saying, yeah, we crazy ones, we have a job to do, don't we? And he smiles. I think that is the only time Loomis ever smiles. There's nothing, we know, there's nothing in life left for him. There's just this one last job to do. It's brilliant writing by Alan McElroy, the screenwriter. Brilliant acting, brilliant direction, and it's all in the subtext. After this scene, we know the mind of Loomis. And by the way, I made that comment at the last break about asking people to send in theories of what made Michael Myers crazy, and boy, did they pour in fast. So thank you, Darcy, for collecting those. And one of the first ones we got was repeated about 100 times. So I'm just going to read this one, and we'll dispose of this theory. It was actually sent by a Michael Myers cosplayer, so we get a double whammy here. This is Austin Akoa of El Paso. That's an outstanding Michael Myers that he does. And he says, quote, "The Halloween franchise is my favorite film series, and since middle school, I've been dressing like Myers and just walking around my neighborhood every Halloween. I try to improve or change my costume each year, and I've been at it for around 20 years now." So he started in middle school. He's still doing it. I'm a bit of a neighborhood celebrity at this point. I bet you are, as every year people greet and take plenty of pictures with me. Here's Austin trick-or-treating in a trailer park. You probably want to watch out for this guy if you live there. So here's Austin's theory. Michael Myers left his humanity behind and now exists as the embodiment of pure evil that deceptively has taken the shape of a man, as repeatedly exclaimed by Dr. Loomis. So yes, Austin, thank you. But that doesn't really explain it, because I'm not going to read any of the people who just wrote, because he's pure evil. Because what we want to know is, why would a 6-year-old boy commit that grisly murder in the first place? What caused him to leave his humanity behind and become pure evil? Okay? And we got a few interesting ones. I'm going to read some of them at the next break. And one more thing before we move on. We skipped over Halloween 2. Halloween 2 didn't come out until 3 years after the original, but it starts immediately after the events of the first film. Remember how they looked down to where Michael fell through the window after Loomis blasted him, and he's gone? Well, Laurie is taken to the hospital, and Michael is not satisfied, so he follows her to Haddonfield Memorial, and he carries out a murderous rampage, killing everybody trying to protect Laurie. And they also add a backstory point in part 2, revealing that Laurie Strode is actually Michael's younger sister, who was given up for adoption as an infant. It's getting complicated in this story. And they imply that Michael is driven to kill his younger sister in order to fulfill, quote, the curse of Samhain. And I'm sure we'll get a lot of people writing in to say that the reason Michael kills is the curse of Samhain. But at the end of the movie, Dr. Loomis causes an explosion that blows up both himself and Michael. And so with both of them dead, they do Halloween 3, because John Carpenter wanted to end the Michael Myers story. He was done with it. And he wanted to turn the franchise into an anthology where each new film would be a different story set on Halloween night. Now, this idea probably would have worked in today's streaming era, but in 1982, didn't work. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, is about an evil novelty company that uses the magic of Stonehenge to weaponize Halloween masks. And they use a commercial jingle that mesmerizes children to wear the masks. So Halloween 3 killed the franchise for 6 years. They didn't know what to do after that failure. And by the time Mustafa Akkad decides, well, we're just going back to basics. Loomis and Michael and Laurie Strode, that's it. But Laurie Strode was gone. Jamie Lee Curtis was not going to sign up for another one. And so that led to the Jamie Lloyd saga, which was the best thing that ever happened to the career of Danielle Harris. So Jamie Lloyd became the target of Michael Myers in Halloween 4 and Halloween 5 and Halloween 6, although she was only played by Danielle Harris in the first two, 4 and 5. Is that confusing enough? I think we can head back to Movie Land now.
Danielle Harris, if you're watching, I love you, bae.
All right, roll the film. And Darcy, I am going to give you your chance to speak.
Oh my God, thank you. You're driving me crazy.
I can tell you're seething over there. Darcy is the world's biggest Halloween 3 fan. She's been trying to get us to show it for months now. You even went to a convention, right? You found Tom Atkins. You stalked him or something. You recruited him to your cause.
I did indeed. And Tom is going to kick your ass.
Do you really think Halloween 3 is better than Halloween 4?
Oh my God. Halloween 3 is way better than... It's better than 1.
Better than 1?
It's the best Halloween, except for H2O.
H2O? You are out of control.
Seriously, though, I talked to Tom, and next time he sees you at a convention, he's gonna kick your ass.
Sometimes you scare me, Darcy.
Okay. There are a couple things I have to talk about before we can continue.
I need to...
There is Dr. Loomis searching for Michael. So, the first thing, obviously my theory is that the Michael Myers mask is made by the Silver Shamrock, who produced all those evil masks on Halloween night in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. The next thing is that Joe Bob is always looking for an explanation. Okay, he's always searching for an explanation on why is Michael Myers evil. Now, the thing that Rob Zombie wanted to do with his Halloween franchise is exactly explain that situation. Okay, Rob Zombie, when he made the Halloween movies, he only wanted to show more of Michael's perspective as a child and why he became evil, why he did the things that he did. So, technically speaking, the answer to that question is in all of the Rob Zombie Halloween movies. Because Rob Zombie even said himself the only thing that he wanted to do differently from John Carpenter's first 2 movies was just explain more of Michael's backstory and why he was the way he was as a kid. And thirdly, okay, it's crazy to me how after Halloween 1 and 2, John Carpenter's first 2 original films, he basically sold the rights. And the idea for Halloween 3 was that every Halloween movie was going to be a different scenario on Halloween night, right? And like Joe Bob said, maybe in today's age where you have streaming and all that stuff, it could have worked. It could have been like the next American Horror Story or like a modern day American Horror Story. But in the 80s, that didn't really work out so well. So after Halloween 3, 4 and 5 had to do their own little spin on things. Rob Zombie incorporated his Halloween movies 1 and 2. But if you look at the Danny McBride Halloween movies, I believe Danny McBride's Halloween 1 in 2018, that takes place after John Carpenter's Halloween 1 from 1978. So it's almost like they erased all of the entire film history when they came out with Halloween 2018. It basically says everything that happened after John Carpenter's first movie, Halloween 1 in 1978, it didn't fucking happen at all, which to me is absolutely stupid because I don't know how you could ignore so much shit that John Carpenter did in the second movie and then the Rob Zombie stuff and so on and so forth. And another theory that I've always had too is the entire purpose of the Halloween franchise is Michael Myers versus Laurie Strode. It's Laurie Strode versus Michael Myers. They both exist to kill each other, but they can't kill each other. It's almost like they just exist to kill each other, but neither one of them are ever successful in doing so. But I definitely hated how I like Halloween 2018 and I like Halloween Kills. Absolutely hated Halloween Ends. To me, Halloween Ends is the worst movie in the franchise. It's, I'd take Halloween 3, fucking Halloween Resurrection, Halloween H2O over Halloween Ends any fucking day. I love Halloween 4 and 5. It's the introduction to Danielle Harris also into the franchise, which I love always seeing Danielle Harris return to do Halloween stuff and Halloween movies. But Halloween 2018 basically says that they are the direct sequel to John Carpenter's Halloween 1 from 1978. So I never really liked that, especially like how they kind of told the story moving forward. Halloween Kills, like I said, was good, but Halloween Ends was not a proper way to end the trilogy or the fucking Halloween franchise, if that's how you want to look at it.
I still think that if the events of the first two movies happened in your town, you wouldn't want to wear that mask, and your parents wouldn't let you wear that mask. Have you noticed, by the way, that every time we see Dr. Loomis, his right cheek looks deformed in a different way? Sometimes it looks like oatmeal, sometimes it looks like animal scratches. He got really poor wound care in Illinois. He's got a morphing infection on his right cheek. And also I wanted to mention that Bucky, the goofy technician at the power station with Bucky written across the front of his plastic hat, who gets hurled into the power grid by Michael Myers. Bucky has his own website called Bucky's Power Station, and a group of followers who put on those white plastic hats at horror conventions. The actor's name is Harlow Marks, and absolutely nothing is known about Harlow Marks. And I think his fans like it that way, though. They don't even use his real name. He's just Bucky. All right, we have a lot of people chiming in on the why did Michael go crazy in the first place sweepstakes here. So Justin Raymond of Apple Valley, Minnesota. I don't think anything set him off. I just think he was born evil. All right, a whole lot of people said this, but that doesn't really fly in a movie. If he was born evil, we have to come up with a reason that happened before he was born. And there are references in Halloween 2 and in Halloween 6 to the Curse of Thorn. You can go on the internet and read about this, but basically, according to Celtic legend, once a year on Samhain, Halloween, one child from each tribe was chosen to be inflicted with the Curse of Thorn, requiring blood sacrifice, and that family had to be killed in order for all the other families to live. So if Michael is the child afflicted with the Curse of Thorn, then that's why he would have to kill all his relatives, and it would have nothing to do with his mental state. But in order for that to make sense, we need something in the movie indicating a connection between Haddonfield, Illinois, and medieval Celtic culture, right? Which we do not have, although I'm not ruling it out because the name Myers can be either German or English, and both places did have Celts. All right. John Payne from Iselin, New Jersey. If Michael's relationship with his sister was anything like mine, I can see why he'd go nuts. Okay, somebody in Jersey needs to be watching John. Right. David Hines of Los Angeles. Michael murdered his sister on October 31st, 1963, 3 weeks before the Kennedy assassination. Michael's act presaged the coming change in how America saw itself. That's one I had never thought of. That gives a whole lot of credit to John Carpenter, though, for doing that math on when the thing happened. Leslie Lopez of Fort Lauderdale. Weezer music wasn't around then. That's why he went loco. Very funny. You'll do anything to get Weezer mentioned on the show, right?
True.
All right. Gary Duffy of Modesto, California. It's like having a stroke. The point is, no one knows for sure. It can happen at any time, and that's what makes it so magical. All right, I'll read some more of these at the next break. We have thousands of these now, but I wanted to talk about Danielle Harris, who plays Jamie. I guess they named her Jamie as an homage to Jamie Lee Curtis, although I've never heard that confirmed anywhere. Whenever Dwight Little was interviewed about Halloween 4, he would always say, Danielle was not your typical child actor. but I've been around for a while. I've heard that exact same sentence used by every director who has ever worked with a child actor. So I guess there's no such thing as a, quote, typical child actor, which makes sense because any kid in a major feature role has to kind of be a fearless prodigy in order to come across as believable on a movie set. But Danielle is supposed to be 7 years old in the movie. She was actually 11 years old. She celebrated her 11th birthday on the set. So that helped because there is a big difference between coaching an 11-year-old and coaching a 7-year-old. And Dwight Little said she responded very well to coaching. She is from Plainview, which is a town up near Oyster Bay in Long Island, actually the next town over from Huntington, where I'm doing my show in March. This is this quick and easy self-promotion. I love it. And she had been a child model and had done some commercials and some one-liners on soap operas, things like that. But this was really her first real acting role. She wasn't really aware of how intense the movie is. And evidence of that is she kept that clown costume after the movie was over, and she trick-or-treated in it every year. You know, she went on to be a hard-working actress, both as a child and as a grown-up. She was in Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, The Last Boy Scout. She was in Halloween 5. Whole host of horror movies, including Hatchet 2, one of Laurie Strode's friends, Annie Brackett, in the Rob Zombie Halloween remake, and the sequel. She's petite. She's just 4'11", so she was able to keep doing child roles for quite a while. And the reason she was in Halloween 4 and 5, but not 6, is that the producers needed somebody for 6 who was 18 because of the hours that you had to work, but she was only 17. But what she did is she legally made herself an adult. She spent $3,000 getting emancipated, and she told the producers, okay, I'm eligible now, but they didn't want to pay her back the $3,000, so she passed on the role. And also she didn't really like the story because the story was she was going to get pregnant with Michael Myers' baby and then die, you know, so it wasn't that great a role. Okay, let's get back to the movie. And they had Michael kill another dog. Why do they keep doing that? All right, roll it. Danielle Harris, she does a lot of the horror conventions. And in fact, she's going to be in Tampa next week at Spooky Empire, as a matter of fact. Are you going to meet me at Spooky Empire, Darcy? You going to meet me there? Because, you know, it's on Halloween. I know you're busy on Halloween.
I'm busy at Spooky Empire.
All right. Well, that's one of the huge conventions. Starts on Halloween night. So I watched this Halloween 4 discussion panel that Danielle Harris did. And this happens more than you would think. A guy gets up and he tells her that Halloween 4 is important to him because she is his, quote, crush. All right, which is creepy on all kinds of levels to me because A, she was supposed to be 7 in the movie. And B, even if you knew she was 11, that's still R. Kelly kind of shit. And C, who says that stuff out loud publicly to a woman who has had stalkers? So I think
I can explain some of that.
You can explain that?
Yeah, well, they were her age back when they first saw the movie and got a crush on her.
They weren't 7. You can't watch Halloween 4 when you're 7.
Yeah, you can. Plus, she's done a lot since then. I first knew her on Roseanne.
Yeah?
And it's kind of like, okay, I had a crush on Corey Feldman in Friday the 13th Part 4 when he was like 12. And when I first saw the movie, I was 10. So It made sense. But, you know, as he grew up. Like,
how old were you when he was 12? How old were you?
I mean, I was young, but like in the movie, he's still comparable, slightly older man.
All right. Thank you. And by the way, I know you're friends with Corey, right? And sure. I thought you were going to invite me to the Feld Mansion.
Oh my God. You ruined that. You mocked it.
I compared it to the Playboy Mansion. I said, you know, given a choice between the Playboy Mansion and the Feld Mansion, I would probably choose the Playboy Mansion. But I wasn't mocking the Feld Mansion.
You ruined it.
I'll never go to the Feld Mansion. I'm devastated.
And the movie continues. Now, I will admit, Chad, I will say this. When I was growing up watching these movies, okay, I was like 7 or 8 probably when I first seen Halloween 4. Maybe even younger than that. but it had to be around like 7 or 8 years old. I myself had a crush on Danielle Harris, okay, and it makes sense. I was probably 7 or 8 at the time. She was 11 when she made this movie. You just have a crush, okay? It's a little celebrity crush. I had one on my base, Selma Hayek, too. I got a poster of Selma Hayek over here on my wall now, okay? But I do have a question. Does Halloween 6 actually exist? I think there actually is a Halloween 6. I think Halloween 4 is the return of Michael Myers. Halloween 5 is the revenge of Michael Myers. And then I think Halloween 6 is the curse of Michael Myers. Now, I could be wrong on that, but I do remember seeing a very badly done Halloween movie where they actually did what Joe Bob just said, where in the story somebody had like Michael Myers' baby and it just didn't fucking work. It was a very weird movie, and we talked about it here too, how Quentin Tarantino was supposed to direct and write a Halloween movie. It was supposedly going to be Halloween 6, but maybe he just got a hold of that fucking piss poor script and said, yeah, I'm good on this. I don't need to be involved with any of that shit. And also it probably had to do a lot with like the Weinstein Company just requesting certain things and wanting him to do certain things. It had to be like later in the 90s because Quentin Tarantino's first movie that he ever directed and, wrote himself was Reservoir Dogs, which came out in 92. So it probably would have had to been around like 94, 95 for Halloween 6. Maybe even later than that. But for some reason, I do remember seeing a very badly done Halloween movie. I think it was Halloween 6 called Curse of Michael Myers. I do think that actually exists. Now, it was slipping my mind for a while because, like, I usually don't remember the bad ones. I usually try to remember the good ones. But I think it goes Halloween 1, 2, the John Carpenter movies, then Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, Halloween 4 and 5 with Danielle Harris. I think there's a Halloween 6 called The Curse of Michael Myers. And then after that, you get H2O and Resurrection. And then it goes into the Rob Zombie remakes with Halloween 1 and 2. And then Rob Zombie wanted to do a third movie, but never ended up doing a third movie because he had such a terrible time doing the second movie. Just didn't even want to try and put out a third one after that. And then, of course, years later, after the Rob Zombie movies, you have the Danny McBride trilogy, which is Halloween, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. Now, for me personally, like I said, I think Halloween Ends is the worst fucking movie in the franchise. I would probably put Halloween 6 below that because looking back on it now, I haven't watched Halloween 6 that much compared to a lot of the others because it is bad, but I do remember seeing a movie where they made like Michael Myers like have a baby. I do remember seeing some shit like that. So I'm pretty sure Halloween 6 actually exists, and I believe it's called The Curse of Michael Myers. But yeah, I would say probably the worst Halloween movies of all time is like Halloween Ends and Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. Like I said, 6 sometimes slips my mind because it's just not as watchable to me as some of the other ones in the series. But I will admit, chat, you got me, okay? I had a little celebrity crush on Danielle Harris growing up, okay? I did. I still do, and I'll say it, all right? Ain't got no shame in it. I was a kid growing up watching these movies. She was a kid when she made these movies. And now we're both older now, and we're still involved with Halloween movies. Like I said, chat, for me, it was Danielle Harris from Halloween and Selma Hayek for sure. Selma Hayek was a stunner. Absolutely, bae. I love Selma Hayek movies. I wish she honestly did more stuff with horror, to be honest. But I know she's not too big on the genre that much. She prefers more like action and comedy stuff. But I still love you, Selma Hayek. You are the queen, you are the bae. And it looks like we're also going to be coming down to the end of the movie here very soon. But I always appreciate seeing Danielle Harris return for Halloween movies and just to be a part of the cast and everything. This Halloween 4 and Halloween 5 was during a time when Jamie Lee Curtis apparently did not want to do horror movies anymore. She was against the idea of making any more horror movies. Like I said, guys, in the late 80s and the early 90s, horror movies was still kind of a very specific genre, okay? It wasn't the most popular genre out there in Hollywood or even just commonly amongst your friends. I was always considered the weird kid in school, not only because I loved horror movies, but because I loved pro wrestling. So people fucking hated me growing up. But now, you know, it's a little bit more popular. And I liked Batman. I liked comic book shit like Batman and Blade, right? So that stuff really wasn't popular growing up. Maybe nowadays it is, you know, commonly accepted, but before it wasn't. And in the late 80s to the early 90s, Jamie Lee Curtis really didn't want to be associated with the horror genre anymore. So she got out of it around 4 and 5, and that's when they introduced Danielle Harris. I'm scared to play the theme. I don't want YouTube to copyright us. We gotta skip it.
Once again, shoving a shotgun through somebody's body and doing it so fast she doesn't have time to scream. Obviously, there are supernatural powers here, regardless of whether the director wants to admit it or not. One strange thing, when I saw this movie in 1988, Kathleen Kinmont got naked. Somebody has been tinkering with this negative, eliminating some breastage here. We are returning to the dark ages in this country. Okay, Darcy gave me another email that we got about how Michael Myers went crazy, and it's from, no, it's not. Are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
It's from Chris Jericho of Tampa.
Chris Jericho.
Current world champion in the AEW, All Elite Wrestling.
Fozzy.
Also, Chris has a band. He's the lead singer in Fozzy, the metal band. They've been around for a while now. I was on Chris's podcast. He's a hardcore horror fan. Did he say anything to you when he sent this in?
He asked if his answer is going to be good enough to make it on the show. I think he worked really hard on it.
Okay, well, I'm going to read it, so I guess he worked hard enough on it. All right. Michael Myers became a stone-cold killer because he had a massive case of consanguinophilia, a.k.a. he was deeply in love with his sister Judith from the day he was born. For his entire young life, he didn't know how to express his unquenchable feelings for his sibling and was constantly told that those thoughts weren't right whenever he brought them up to his mother. He also had an uncontrollable urge to be with his sister, to take baths together, to sleep in the same bed, to cuddle with each other, to kiss each other on the privates, like he had seen in his dad's special magazines that he had hidden under the bed. Chris, this is really going in a strange direction. How old was Michael at the beginning of the first movie when he killed his sister? This is a lot of sexual stuff for a 6-year-old.
Now, like I said, guys, I think personally, Joe Bob needs to try and get Rob Zombie and Rob Zombie's opinion on this whole matter. Joe Bob is always trying to figure out what makes Michael Myers evil, but Rob Zombie already did that in his movies. Rob Zombie already discussed, and that's the whole purpose why he made his Halloween movies, because he wanted to show why is Michael Myers evil. So I think the person that Joe Bob needs to talk to about this is Rob Zombie, because Rob Zombie, that's exactly what he wanted to make the Halloween movies for, is just to describe more of Michael's backstory and just show why he is evil.
Okay, I know he loved her from when he was born, but all right. So, okay, I'm not finished. All right, That's
Not
why
finished.
when he came home from trick-or-treating and he saw Judith having sex with her boyfriend, something he had obsessed to do every day of his life, he snapped and murdered her. If he couldn't have sex with the love of his life, then nobody could. This is some serious hormones in a boy of 6. And from that day forward, every woman he saw, everyone was his sister Judith, and he was faced with the uncontrollable urge to kill each and every one of them, which he tried to do for over 40 years. Okay, Chris, most elaborate theory thus far for Michael's mental illness. I am going to recommend a therapist before that next AEW match, not because of this weird theory, but because you also told Darcy that you want to come on the show with your guitar and sing the Happy Camper song from Sleepaway Camp 2.
Yes, we have to do that.
I think we do have to do that. Meanwhile, what have we not talked about yet about this movie? Ellie Cornell plays Rachel, another Long Island girl. She only had 2 roles before this movie. She was a guest on 30-something. She had a small role as a reporter in Married to the Mob. She probably would have had a bigger career, but she got pregnant in 1991 and she took off 8 years to raise her kids. She's done a lot of movies since then, both horror movies and non-horror movies, but she never had that breakthrough role. She and her husband own a restaurant in Nantucket. I've never actually met anybody from Nantucket. The number 1 rhyming word in every dirty limerick, right? There once was a girl from Nantucket, because what can you always rhyme with Nantucket? It's not rocket science. Okay. Actually, I think I have been there now that I think about it. It's an island, right? It's where the whaling industry was. But I didn't realize Ellie Cornell had a restaurant there. I would have been there. I would have to order ice cream, right? Isn't that what they order in this movie? All right, who else is in the cast? George P. Wilbur, veteran stuntman. He played Michael Myers. Bo Starr, veteran character actor. He's Sheriff Ben Meeker. Sasha Jensen plays the slimy boyfriend Brady. He would become semi-famous later in Dazed and Confused and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Always played the jock. And of course, Kathleen Kinmont as Kelly Meeker, the girl who steals Rachel's guy. She made a bunch of movies in the early 90s with Lorenzo Lamas, who she was married to at the time. Snake Eater and Snake Eater 2. Remember those? She kicked ass in those. Also in Bride of Reanimator. She was even on that Lorenzo Lamas series, Renegade. You know her, right, Darcy?
She is a total sweetheart.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Gene Ross plays Earl. Always a great redneck. Was in The Goonies, Lost Highway. This audience might know him as the judge in Don't Look in the Basement. Was still getting work at age 70. I hadn't seen him lately. All right, we got a fairly complicated Haddonfield geographical puzzle going on here. But of course, that doesn't matter to Michael Myers. He can just teleport himself to wherever he needs to be as we approach the stunning conclusion of, and I do mean stunning, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Roll it. Chris Jericho. I love, he used to have a finishing move called the Walls of Jericho, where he grabs a guy by the lower legs and he flips him over on his stomach. So
Walls of Jericho, also a alternate version of the Boston Crab. It's commonly known as a Boston Crab in pro wrestling. Jericho basically just called it the Walls of Jericho because he wanted a finishing move named after him. But
he's face down while Jericho is holding his legs. And then Jericho kind of bends him into a pretzel and sits on his back until he gives up. And I don't know what it has to do with walls, but that's what they called it, Walls of Jericho. But that's not what he used on Hangman Page when he got his world title this summer. He used his new move, which is called the Judas Effect, which is basically just an elbow to the face. He spins around, takes you by surprise, elbows you in the face. Am I oversimplifying the Judas Effect? I don't think so. All of Chris's moves have biblical names because he loves Iron Maiden. His band, Fozzy, sometimes opens for Iron Maiden. He's a metalhead, a horror head, and AEW World Champion. First AEW World Champion, right, Darcy? Darcy follows wrestling. Did I say that right?
You got it pretty close to right.
Pretty close to right.
Pretty close.
Well, text him, Find out if I said that right.
Oh, don't worry. He'll let me know.
All right. Because he's really that much of a fan of the show?
Oh, yeah. He loves the show.
All right.
We need more Last Drive-In episodes with Chris Jericho. I do know that recently Chris Jericho has actually become like a common actor for the Terrifier movies. At the end of Terrifier 2, he had like a cameo where he was working in the hospital. But I do believe that Chris Jericho is actually in Terrifier 3. I plan on going to see Terrifier 3 for my birthday movie this year, which actually won't be on my birthday. It'll probably be like October 16th because I never get to celebrate my actual birthday with my family since my mom is always working. So we always kind of have to do it a different day. My actual birthday is October 18th. So for the 18th, I'm really hoping that I can get Silent Hill 2, the remake that is coming out soon. And hopefully I can upload some videos of that here on the channel. But that's what I plan on doing on my birthday is playing some Silent Hill 2 remake, hopefully. And most likely on October 16th, for my birthday movie, I'm going to go see Terrifier 3 in the theaters. But I do believe that Chris Jericho is also supposed to be in Terrifier 3. So that's really cool. It's really cool to see him also working with one of my favorite horror franchises right now with Terrifier. But this is pretty much the end of the movie right here for Halloween 4. So we are going to see Joe Bob's final thoughts and get the conclusion. This is after the end credits. Can't play too much of the theme because YouTube doesn't like that shit.
For the horror of that scene. And Loomis knows what has to be done there, but he's stopped by Sheriff Meeker and the curse continues. Halloween 4 is basically a Western. An outlaw rides into town, tests the mettle of the local sheriff. The angry townfolk have to be controlled. A loner shows up for a showdown with the outlaw. A couple of great sequences in those final scenes, though. One is when Rachel has Jamie on her back and they're up on the roof. Of course, they were not really 40 feet up off the ground. They built that fake roof in a pasture. But because the roof was so steep, the chimney is still about 15 feet up. But very well filmed, directed, acted. Ellie Cornell got a little beat up doing it. And then the great driving sequence where Michael kills the rednecks in the back of the pickup, rides on the roof, kills Earl, tries to kill Rachel, and then she pitches him off the front of the truck by hard braking, and he does that great fall. And then George Wilbur does another great stunt when she runs him down before the cops arrive and they blow him into that giant sinkhole with about 47,000 rounds of all kinds of ammo. And there's that one brief moment, if you blink, you'll miss it, where Jamie touches the dying Michael's hand. And they say there's no supernatural in this story. Originally, there was supposed to be one more elaborate action scene. Sheriff Meeker and Michael Myers were supposed to fight to the death inside the house, and then the house goes up in flames, and that's what forces Jamie and Rachel onto the roof and eventually onto the highway. Well, that never happened because of budget, and it's a weakness because you find yourself wondering just why are they driving away from Haddonfield? Also, the scene where Michael attacks Loomis and Jamie in the schoolhouse, then he gets the fire extinguisher blast to the face. He's wearing a new mask. It's not the mask that he was previously wearing in this movie. And Dwight Little, the director, says it's because they misplaced the mask. They couldn't find the right mask. But they were under intense pressure because they only had one night in that school to get all their shots. So they just used whatever was available. But my question would be, how do you just happen to have a different colored Michael Myers mask available while you're shooting Halloween 4? Did they go to the discount mart and buy one? Okay, the ending kind of snuck up on me, so we didn't have time to deal with all the theories about why Michael went crazy. But feed a few brief ones to me, Darcy. And I see you are channeling Kelly Meeker, as portrayed by Kathleen Kinmont.
Yes, I am.
Nice job.
Thank you, sir.
What you got?
Alrighty, the first one is from Elizabeth McKinney of Reidsville, North Carolina, who we know because she is the lady who bought the Michael Berryman doll.
I remember that for the Wolf Sanctuary, yeah. Michael was born with something not right in his mind. The wiring got crisscrossed. At an older age, that started showing, and he acted on it and chose to stay evil. That's why they say the devil's eyes, and the devil walks among us. He loved the darkness. You know, I don't think it counts if you're born with it. If you're born with it, then there has to be a prior cause.
That doesn't make any sense. But anyway, Ezra Cole of Savannah.
Genetic malformations in the brain resulting in a lack of the ability for empathy or the ability to feel pain. This also resulted in increased growth hormone, which accounted for size and strength durability. If Loomis had done a CAT scan, he probably could have done more. Okay, I'm not buying that one because that's still messed up at birth. There's no scene that sets that up.
Alrighty, try Ben Pine of Saginaw, Michigan.
Ben Pine, okay. He didn't go crazy. He's not crazy. He's another separate being existing outside our experience. You believe this, don't you?
I think he's closest.
His reasons, goals, motivations are all muddled in our little brains. He is higher than us. He simply is. That's why he's terrifying. Higher than us. That's an interesting one.
Alrighty. Next up, Jimmy Detroit from Long Beach, California.
All right. Michael is a representation of addiction. He's always reappearing, always doing damage, can't be killed. He relentlessly follows you everywhere and never lets up. That strikes me as a peculiarly California explanation of Michael Myers' addiction.
Okay, Tony H. of Rockledge, Florida.
Okay. Because he was upset that his sister would rather get laid than pay attention to him on Halloween. And then after being kept locked up for years, realizing he never felt more alive than he did when he killed his sister. So he keeps chasing that initial high. Well, at least this one is all backed up by evidence in the movie. And it's also an argument for leniency and sentencing. So, Tony, I think you win in the logic department. So one of the stronger Halloween sequels, in my opinion.
Mine too.
It's no Halloween 3.
Well, we're not showing Halloween 3. Let's just not go there.
I know. I'm just reminding you that whatever we are showing next better be better than Halloween 3, or I'm going to be very upset.
It is better, but you probably will not agree that it's better.
But we do actually have a real mailbag.
Oh, really? Some regular mailbag.
Yes,
Okay.
we do. It's from Sergeant Jeremy Julian of Fort Stewart, Georgia.
Now, I do just want to say before we continue, Halloween 1 and 2, the original by John Carpenter's are classic. Halloween 3 I also liked. Okay, I don't think it's the worst Halloween movie in the franchise. For me, it kind of adds to my theory of the Michael Myers mask being made by Silver Shamrock. Halloween 4 and 5 I loved because of Danielle Harris. Halloween, I guess there's Halloween 6. I would assume so. Like I said, I kind of think I remember back in the day watching a Halloween 6, and it's called The Curse of Michael Myers or some shit like that. And that's like one of the worst ones in the movie or the franchise, because that's pretty much where they gave Michael Myers his own child. And like, I don't know, man. But fucking Halloween 6 was supposed to also be directed and made by one of my favorite directors, Quentin Tarantino. He passed up on that probably when he started reading the script too and just said, yeah, I'm good on that bullshit. Halloween 7 and 8 would technically be Halloween H2O and then Halloween Resurrection, which I do like H2O, and I do think that Resurrection is a decent film. H2O probably a little bit better, but Resurrection to me is not the worst Halloween movie of all time. And then after that, you would have the Rob Zombie remakes with Halloween 1 and 2. And then, of course, later on through the years, in 2018, you have the Danny McBride trilogy, Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and then Halloween Ends. Now, I do just want to say before the episode ends, they're always trying to find a method to Michael Myers' madness. They're always trying to find out why is Michael Myers evil? But to me, I would enjoy it way more if people didn't understand a whole lot about Michael Myers. I think it's actually better when there's mystery to the character, okay? Because one of the reasons I love Heath Ledger's Joker so much is because that character was so mysterious and you didn't know a whole lot about him. You didn't know why he was crazy. You didn't know why he was acting like a psycho. He just is that way. And of course, the Joker, the Heath Ledger Joker in The Dark Knight has his own explanations, and even his own explanations are pretty much scattered throughout the movie. But I think it's also a reason why I love Art the Clown and the Terrifier movies, because you really don't know a whole lot about Art the Clown. You really don't know why he's evil or why he's a psycho killer, okay? And that to me is scarier than actually knowing why the fuck he is the way he is. Now, they have said before that Art the Clown has a supernatural ability to keep his victims alive while he's killing them, okay? So he could do like the most crazy dramatic thing, like snap somebody's neck, but they would be alive for however long he wants to keep them alive because that's his supernatural ability. He wants you to feel the pain. He wants to kill you while he's in your presence. Now, do we know a whole lot about the backstory of Art the Clown? Not so much. Do we know a whole lot about why he is the way he is? Or there's a whole bunch of questions throughout the Terrifier franchise. But like I said, I enjoy it a little bit more when we have those killers who are more of a mystery than an actual explanation.
Okay. Hey, Joe Bob Briggs. My name is Julian, and I first started watching Monster Vision in 5th grade. I've always been a horror movie fan. I've been in the Army for almost 10 years now. And the Friday night you showed Deathgasm, where is this? This is from Fort Stewart. That's in the middle of nowhere in Georgia. That is a real Army base. That's real soldiers out there. I was one of 2 sergeants in charge when you showed Deathgasm. I was teaching new soldiers of my battalion some basic night vision driving.
Speaking of soldiers, I got the salute to service Buffalo Bills cap on here. Salute to service. Thank you to our troops. Thank you to our military.
When other sergeants took soldiers to get training on driving with the night vision devices, I kept the rest corralled in an open field and was teaching them the basic use of the equipment. One soldier happened to say it was 2100, which would be 9 p.m. I pulled up Shutter on my phone, placed it in my helmet on the ground. Now, these guys are on maneuvers, and then he's calling up Shutter on his phone and putting it in his helmet. So I would not miss the last drive-in. My battalion's new chaplain was one of the soldiers there that night and was right by my side as I put on the show. The look on the chaplain's face when you gave the drive-in totals was priceless. As soldiers got done driving and they received the hands-on class that I was teaching, they would gather around my helmet and watch the movie. They would always stop anything they might have been talking about when watching the movie to listen to you. It made me think about what I've heard you say so many times: movies bring people together. If you can imagine 15 soldiers, including a chaplain, in the woods in Fort Stewart, Georgia, gathered around a Galaxy Note 9 in my helmet, watching your show, watching Deathgasm of all things, thank you. You have always been a big influence on me. You introduced me to movies I never saw, helped me see movies I already loved in a different way. My wife and I are looking forward to seeing you in Jacksonville. Oh, I know who this is. The drive-in will never die. Sincerely, Sergeant Julian. He did come to my show in Jacksonville because I remember saying thank you for your service. And also, people, always say thank you for your service. You get embarrassed. You don't want to say it. You're in the airport or whatever. Whenever you see these guys in the airport, you know, they don't know who appreciates soldiers, who dislikes soldiers. They need to know you're on their team. Anyway, thank you, Darcy. This is one of the most unique letters that we've had. And thank you to the 3rd Infantry, especially you guys who know night vision driving, or you probably don't know night vision driving because you were watching The Last Drive-In instead of studying your night vision driving. You know who was in the 3rd Infantry? Audie Murphy. He's probably the most famous person who was ever in the 3rd Infantry. Texan, Medal of Honor winner, and a movie star. He actually played himself in to hell and back, but mostly he did Westerns. But if you go to Arlington National Cemetery, second most visited grave is Audie Murphy. JFK is the first most, but Audie Murphy. Okay, I'm getting way off base here. 3rd Infantry, yeah. We have one more movie on the Halloween Hootenanny. But first, how about some quickies? Let's do some quickies, all right? What's the best thing about dating a homeless woman?
I don't know.
You can drop her off anywhere.
Okay. All right. That is our Halloween 4 Halloween Hootenanny Halloween special on The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob, Season 5, 2019. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching it with me tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, ghosts and goblins, witches and wizards, vampires and werewolves, I hope you all have a fantastic spooky season. We are right around the corner now from Halloween, October 31st. And of course, Libra season, my birthday coming up October 18th. But thank you all for being here with me tonight and checking out this episode. I appreciate your viewership. I appreciate your support so much. It means a whole lot to me. It really does. The next time that we go live and do another stream and another watch along will most likely be on Friday coming up this week. So that is when we will watch another Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Halloween Hootenanny Halloween special, where Joe Bob is going to watch and talk about the movie Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. So thank you again for being here with me tonight. Thank you, Shudder Network, for giving us these Joe Bob episodes. Thank you for even existing, for having an entire catalog of just a horror genre dedicated to your service. Thank you, Shudder. Thank you, Joe Bob Briggs. And thank you, Darcy the Mail Girl. Another great Halloween Hootenanny Halloween special here with Halloween 4, 1988. Ladies and gentlemen, ghosts and goblins, witches and wizards, vampires and werewolves. Until next time, peace, God.